We're recording. Charlene, welcome to the channel.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. That's actually, I think this is your first time on the channel.
It is. It's my first time. Yeah.
It's exciting because you are the first person who have on the channel who has been on the channel already. So this week I've been having quite a few people on, but they were all previous guests. So it's nice to have someone new. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on actually was because you're a yoga instructor. You also have a really interesting concept with your yoga, and we're going to get into that in a bit. But before we start, why don't we talk about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So my name is Charlene Labrador, and I'm a yoga teacher who teaches the Vinyasa lineage. And I'm actually a newly graduate. So I just finished my course in May. And yeah, I'm currently practicing at your facility.
You are.
I also do online yoga with seniors. Occasionally, I'll teach the downtown East Side community and friends and family as well.
Okay, so let's go back. So the particular yoga that you teach, though, I'm not a yoga person. So would it be considered anything equivalent to, say, Hatha yoga?
Hatha yoga. So Hatha yoga and Yin yoga are a bit of the more relaxed type of yoga, whereas mine is a bit more rigorous breath and movement type flows. So it can be a little bit more intense, but there's always levels in adjusting to people who are beginners. So,
okay. What made you decide to get into this industry? Like, why did you want to be a yoga instructor?
Yeah, so the pandemic is actually, there's many factors as to why I became a yoga teacher. The main one being from personal experience with family and friends growing up with mental health. And I think the pandemic was the tip for me when I decided, okay, I truly feel like the helping heal the body and move the body really does help with our mental health. And so that's when I decided to make the shift to become a yoga teacher.
So you actually started your business during the pandemic.
Yes.
That's interesting. Not many people were doing that. Most people were closing their businesses, and you decided to start a business. What's been your biggest, I'm sure there's been a few, but what's been your biggest hurdle since getting into this industry?
To be honest, I feel like there's so much that the world needs right now, and I just feel like there's not enough support. So it's like, even if I'm helping one person, it just seems like there's so many people who are struggling with mental health with the pandemic that that's my biggest hurdle, is like being able to reach out to community and give them resources to be able to do something for themselves, which you don't really need much, right? All you need is a quiet space and a mat, and there are different techniques that you can do, go deeper even with it. It's not just about the posture. You can add meditation in there. Breath work is super powerful for the body. And yeah, I just feel like reaching community has been the struggle, and feeling like there needs to be more support out there for everybody.
One of the reasons I wanted to team up with you, though, and we go back a few months ago when I first contacted you to say, come train at our facility, was you have a really interesting concept that I've never seen with yoga instructors before. In my experience, I've been doing personal training for 20 years now. And like I said, I don't know anything about yoga, but I do know some yoga instructors, and they're always trying to advertise yoga classes. And I get that. They want big classes. But you've taken a different approach. And even though you do some classes, I mean, you do classes at our facility, but you've taken more of a one-on-one private yoga lessons, which is pretty much unheard of. Not many people do that. In your opinion, I want to get an idea as to, do you think that's actually more beneficial for someone to have a one-on-one or two-on-one with a yoga instructor versus, say, a class of 30 or 40 people?
I definitely think so. There's a lot of elements when it comes to trying something new. I mean, I remember when I first started working out and going to the gym was super intimidating. And yoga classes, they usually at normal capacity can be in the amount of 20 to 30 people. And going in there being completely new and trying to do the postures correctly and also watching yourself. So do I feel like you can truly get the full benefit being a beginner at a class? No, I definitely don't think so. I think that starting a one-on-one is the best way to go because you can get the foundations of yoga and then apply that if you wanted to try a class in the future, definitely. And also with yoga postures, there's no exact one way of doing it. Yes, there is a proper, like, the real yogis out there who are really deep into yoga, like it can be quite intense.
Sure.
But I don't think that yoga necessarily has to be accessible that way. You can be a beginner and do like a yin yoga and it be super relaxing for your parasympathetic nervous system. And if you do one-on-one yoga, then I can teach you how you can move your body, and everybody doesn't have to look the same because every body is different. And the reason why I liked yoga so much is because I think it's accessible to all ages, from children to teens, adults, even seniors doing chair yoga with them. Um, yeah, I think that doing privates is a great way to just see how your body moves and
Yeah.
getting to know your body better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's one thing whenever I have a new client contact myself or Megan, and they say, we want to join one of your group classes. And we say, great, what's your level of fitness, your experience in the gym? And they'll say 0. I'll say, you really would benefit more from a few one-on-one sessions first.
Right.
Yes, it's going to
Yeah.
cost a little bit more to work with you one-on-one than in a group class setting, but you're going to get so
Mhm.
much more out of it, so that when you do come to the group classes, you won't know, you'll know what you're doing, at least have a better idea. And
Right.
because when you're one instructor and you've got, this, if you have a class of 10, 15 people, there's no way that you can correct everybody running around at the same time, right? So
Right.
ideally, when you're working in a group class setting, people who work with me, they've been training with me for 5, 10 years. So they have an idea of what they're doing. They might need the odd little correction in form, but it's not a
Right.
beginner to the gym. And that's where
Right.
one-on-one comes in really, really beneficial.
For
Um,
sure.
you mentioned mental health. What are the
Yes.
benefits with mental health when it comes to yoga?
Yeah, so that was probably the main factors. I do call myself a yoga teacher, but I also call myself a mental health advocate.
Okay.
Um, when in during quarantine, I read the book The Body Keeps the Score, and it's about how trauma can affect the body and how they use different type of therapeutic modalities on patients. And they found that yoga was actually really beneficial for their clients. And these are clients who deal with anxiety, depression, PTSD. And so it's super beneficial because with yoga, with breath work and meditation, you can access your parasympathetic nervous system, as I mentioned. And for me, I grew up with anxiety. My body was in fight flight mode since I was a child. And it wasn't until the last 2 years that I was actually able to self-regulate using the tools that I learned from yoga. And so it has changed my life personally as far as anxiety goes. And there's been such a rise with it over this last like decade. And it's great that I think in the last 5 years, people are a lot more aware to it, and knowing that there are resources that people can access. And I think that during quarantine, everybody was kind of rethinking everything and their mental health and their physical health. And so yoga really does benefit that.
Okay, that's interesting because you said you struggled with anxiety your entire life. A lot of
Yeah.
people struggle with anxiety. And when you first started noticing, did you go and seek professional help at that time?
So I actually started off with a naturopath, just working on my body.
Yeah.
I've been working out and trying to eat good since about 2015, 2016. I took it
Okay.
seriously when I started training with you back
Oh,
in 2017.
okay.
And I was doing all the right things, I felt like, but it felt like my body was giving me cues that something was still missing.
Okay.
And so I did seek therapy for myself
You
as
did.
well to help with that.
Sure.
But I think that yoga and doing that self work and that shadow work really, really helped tie everything together and help me understand my body more, my mind more, and in ways that I can rewire how my body is used to reacting kind of like an alarm system. So meditation really helped rewire that for me.
What's also interesting too is when I talk to people like you who start their businesses. I have 2 or 3 other friends who actually they quit their jobs during the pandemic, or they lost their jobs during the pandemic, and they've started their own businesses. Some are doing okay, some not. You know, it's hard right now because it's a really hard climate to kind of guide through right now. You know,
Yes.
one day your business is open, the next is shut down. The restrictions, they come,
Right.
they go. What do you find right now? I mean, like I said, starting your business during the pandemic, have you found it difficult to find new clients?
Definitely. I
Yes.
think, as you know, starting a business in general has its ups and downs. And then you add a layer of this pandemic, and it's definitely been a struggle for sure. Um, but I have my goal and my ambition in mind that the thing for me is that I just have to keep being persistent. And I know that one day it'll definitely pay off. And right now, to be honest, it's such a struggle right now, but I have a bigger picture in mind. And that's to reach as many people as I can, to give them these tools to help benefit their mental and physical health. So although it's been tough, I have a bigger drive to keep going. So I will not stop until I reach more community for sure.
And that's so important. I had the same mindset when I first started. You and I've talked off camera behind this, and I said to you, when
Yeah.
I first got in the industry, I was giving free sessions on Craigslist. I did whatever it took
Yeah.
because I mean, literally, your back's against the wall.
Yeah.
When you go out on your own like that, you don't have, in your case or my case, we don't have a gym that's spoon feeding us clients. We're not working at
Yeah.
a big box commercial gym like Fitness World where they do all the marketing for you. You and I
Yes.
have to do our own marketing. You know,
Yeah.
we promote each other through our social media applications, but you're very much like me where you're always on social media, but in a good way. You know, you're
Mm.
not taking butt selfies and these things that you do. Like, you're actually very professional. And one of the
Yeah.
things I admire about you with your social media is you're on it religiously. Like, you're constantly
Mm.
updating promotions, your classes. And that's
Yeah.
so important because I think a lot of people, when it comes to social media, they might put a post up once every 2 or 3 weeks. And at that point in
Yeah.
my, and I'm not, by no means am I a social media expert, but
Mhm.
when I see people doing things like that, I'm like, well, if you're not updating what's going on in your business, what is your business? You know,
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't look professional. So you're either going to do it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I admire about you, is because I think you're even probably more active than I am on social media, which is great.
Mm.
And you're using that to your advantage, because right now that is the best form of marketing, especially during this climate.
Yes, it's definitely the way that I market my business as well. And I think that, like we were talking about, like doing this thing on my own is a lot different, where I can go to like an oxygen yoga or Y yoga and not have to think about clients and just teach. But I put myself in a hole a little bit by starting a business in the pandemic and then going a separate route than what normal yoga teachers would do, which would be to teach at a corporate yoga company. And I just went the other way and decided to promote my own business because I wanted to teach in a specific way. And I think that that's the one thing that some yoga companies lack, is like there's so much more than just doing the poses. And so
Yes.
that's the real big reason why I decided to go on my own, is because there's a specific way that I want to teach people.
Yeah.
And maybe it may not be the way that you want to be taught. There are many different instructors, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But to be able to teach you the way I think that, it honors its traditional roots being India, but also gives you different ways on being curious about your body by using different like modalities like breathing and meditation and yoga as well.
Well, and that was another reason why I wanted to team up with you, because you have a very similar mindset that I did when I first started my company. I never worked for a big box gym either. I never had
Mm.
anyone give me clients. And I think it's because people like yourself and I, it's not that we're stubborn and we want to do things our way, or our way is the only way to do it. It's more
Right.
like you said, it's just, I find, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but a lot of
Mhm.
these big corporations, it's very cookie cutter. in the personal training industry, we're
Yeah.
taught, and I remember this going to personal training classes. You put your
Mhm.
client on for 5 minutes on a treadmill, you stand there and watch them walk or while they warm up, and then you cool them down for 15 minutes with a stretch. And
Mhm.
I've inherited clients from other trainers who were used to that. I'm sorry, but that bullshit type of training,
Mhm.
and they hated it. They're just like, it
Yeah.
was very cookie cutter. And
Mhm.
so you kind of have to give the client what the client wants. At the end of the day, you're selling a service, and it's your service, and you can tailor
Mhm.
it to the individual you're working with. And like you said, if they don't like the way that you teach, they can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about working with someone like yourself is that you customize the sessions for each individual.
Yes, definitely. So, I mean, some people may not want to go deep into yoga, which is totally understandable. Some people just strictly want to do it for flexibility, mobility to help, in addition to what they're already doing training wise. Maybe they want to, for myself, anyways, I've been weight training as well. And I've noticed a huge difference in my range of motion and just my body awareness when I'm training weights. And so maybe that's what somebody wants, or somebody may want to get curious and dive deeper into meditation and breath work and all of that stuff too. So it really is about just tailoring to what you need, instead of coming to a class and me not being able to really truly pay attention to you and understand what your needs are.
Well, and you bring up a good point there, because there's guys like me. I used to compete in bodybuilding, guys with
Mhm.
these lots of muscle, right? But you've probably seen this. We're very immobile, very inflexible. These are people that would definitely benefit from working with you in addition to their weight training, right? It just
Yeah.
provides that extra sense of mobility, which is crucial. Like you said, for range of motion, there's so many times when I'll take on a
Yes.
new client, and I'm sure you've seen this too, especially men. Men were really bad with this. They'll make do a bench press. They can't get that bar all the way down because their rotator
Right.
cuffs are too tight. Or they might do a bench press and all of a sudden their head pops off the bench because their traps
Right.
are too tight. So this is
Mhm.
where it would come in handy seeing someone like you.
Mhm.
Are you working primarily with men, women, or would you say it's equal?
I would say that it's primarily women.
It is. Okay.
It is. But I feel like it's becoming a little bit more diverse in the last few years for sure, because I think men are understanding that it is quite beneficial and it's not just accessible by women. And that's one of my big things too, right? Is that I think that the yoga industry, out in BC anyways, you see a body type, you see a social demographic that typically goes to yoga.
Okay.
But I think that it's definitely and should be accessible to all based upon your body size, your sex, your age. It really is great for everybody.
And that's why I notice on social media, you do market your services to everybody.
Yeah,
You don't just try to target one particular demographic. I've seen like
right.
you say everyone's welcome, which is great.
Yes, yeah.
I want your opinion on these latest restrictions. I mean, you and I have both been affected by this. Gym's been shut
Yes.
down now. That's our
Yeah.
livelihood, not only
Mhm.
for our own workouts, but also for our business. What are your thoughts on the current restrictions with gym closures here in BC?
Yeah, I think that Dr. Bonnie Henry should definitely reconsider. I think that it's a big mistake to close gyms and studios when people use it to access, to get healthier for their
Yeah,
mental health, their physical health.
yeah.
I totally understand in decreasing the numbers to ensure everybody's safety, but I think that she could have at least like reduced the numbers and not totally closed down. Um, and for yourself and I, we are a more private to small group type of business, and we're not like Anytime Fitness where like 50 people can come in. And so to me, it honestly didn't make very much sense.
Yeah.
And it's super frustrating because when you look at last year, like they put in like I think it was 5 million more into mental health services, something around that,
Okay.
just because of the pandemic. And I, at that time as well, I used to work in the downtown east side, and suicide rates, overdose increased like crazy because of quarantine. And people losing their jobs and losing family members. And so the mental health services in BC was drowning. And so for her to make that decision to close that down, it's super frustrating.
I agree with you. And you brought up something that I want to actually touch on with you is that you mentioned earlier that you're a mental health advocate and that you did work previously in the downtown east side. Do you feel comfortable telling people what you used to do in the downtown east side?
Yeah. So I worked for a nonprofit organization, an Indigenous nonprofit organization by the name of Kalala Leilam. And it was a beautiful organization filled with doctors, nurses, elders. We had outreach workers, cultural wellness programs. And so I helped at the front and occasionally did some outreach for patients.
Yeah. That has to be mentally draining though on you as well, right? I compare it almost to like a social worker. Like it's a mentally draining job.
Oh, definitely. I think it's kind of funny in a way because I actually, when I came back from traveling at the end of 2019, I actually was working for a naturopath
Yeah.
in a clinic out in Olympic Village. And I traded that to work in the downtown east side because something was telling me that I needed to be there and that I was going to learn something.
Yeah.
And also, again, like I mentioned in the beginning, mental health is something that my own family struggles from.
Right.
And so some of the things that um, patients go through are things that I've experienced in my own past, in my own family. And um, I really learned a lot there by them teaching us how to be in our spirit, be in our body. And um, the reason why I liked it so much there is because you had a mix of Western medicine, but also traditional with Indigenous culture, Indigenous medicine as well. And so I learned a lot there. And it's part of the reason why I also decided to become a yoga teacher was because I wanted them to be able to access yoga, to be able to try to practice, maybe even if it's only for 5 minutes, to be able to calm yourself. That was like another tipping point as to why I began teaching.
Yeah, I think this is going to have, with these latest restrictions when it comes to mental health, I think this is going to have a major effect on people's mental health down the road, taking away gyms like this. I
Yeah.
had within the first 3 or 4 days, numerous emails from people telling me they don't know what to do. I mean, a lot of
Mm,
people that I work with, we live in the city, right? You live in the city, we live in the city,
right.
we live in apartments. We can't really set up a home gym that's with all these dumbbells and kettlebells. It's not really practical.
Yeah.
You might be able to
Yeah.
get maybe one or two pairs of dumbbells, but at the end of the
Hmm.
day, it's not going to be the same. And it's hard. Like I don't get motivated to train here. This doesn't motivate me at all. But
Yeah.
one of the things what's interesting with you is you do a lot of Zoom sessions, right?
I do. Yes.
How do you find those?
In the beginning, when I decided to become a yoga teacher, the fact that a portion would be online, I was very hesitant. I was
Yeah.
like, absolutely no,
Yeah.
this is not going to work. I'm not going to like it as much. I like being in person better. And once I started teaching and actually experiencing I still got a very good yoga session in.
Yeah.
And so my thing is like, how can we make it accessible? I'm already thinking how I can make it accessible, but add the pandemic, I'm like, okay, what can I do more? Let
Yeah.
me offer some free classes online, maybe give it a try. You never know. Some people are a hard no, but I feel like until you've given it a try, like it's worth giving it a shot.
One of the things I guess you'd have to do if you're teaching on Zoom too is your cues have to be really on point, right?
For sure.
I
Yeah.
have a good friend who's a trainer, and all her sessions are on Zoom now. And she's like, my cues, they have to be so clear for people because
That's right.
you're not in the gym with them, so you can't you can't do postural alignment, you can't
Mhm.
correct people hands on, right? So it does
Yeah.
become an issue. Before I let you go, I do have another question for you as far as your
Mhm.
company. Where do you see yourself going in the next year with your company? Like, what's your plan? What's your vision?
My vision, honestly, is to be able to reach as much community as I can. So my thing is being able to continue teaching seniors online I also would like to teach corporate because that is something that I think is super important. A lot of companies nowadays, people are still working from home,
Yeah.
or maybe they have a limited capacity at work. I think that it's beneficial to be able to have employees access this, whether it's just a quick 30-minute meditation during lunch. So that's kind of the direction that I'm going, and continue to offer these one-on-one privates with people through Zoom.
It's interesting you bring up corporate training because that's one of the things that we specialize at our facility. And when the
Yeah,
pandemic happened, that was kind of taken away from us because, like you said, everyone went to go work at home. Now,
right.
with restrictions, are a little bit. In the last few months, they were kind of eased off a bit. So we were able to reopen those corporate classes again. We had a lot of people coming back downtown to
Mhm.
work downtown facility. And a lot of the clients that were working with us, their companies would cover their classes. And
Yeah,
I would say 5, 10 years ago, that was unheard of. I mean,
right.
people would have did get benefits for massage, benefits for
Mhm.
physiotherapy, but nothing for personal training, and that's
Yeah,
slowly starting to change. I have
yeah,
companies. Go ahead. What were we gonna say?
no, I was just gonna say it's exciting.
Yeah,
It's one of the things that always thought, like, why didn't they include like physical health in there? Like it should be
yeah,
part of a
it should be.
package for sure.
And what's interesting is it first started with a few of my clients are lawyers. And so they started to do it at their own law firms. They would
Mhm.
include it in their benefit package and say, hey, if you want to do personal training, it's on us. Small group training's on us to a certain limit, just like you would get
Mhm.
massage or physiotherapy. But I
Right.
personally never thought that would ever take off. I said, oh, you guys will
Yeah.
be a few, but I'm seeing more and more of that now. So I think in the
Mhm.
next few years, we're going to see you as well. That's going to become more popular and there'll be more people because a lot of people can't afford to see you or to see I in a one-on-one
Right.
setting. Some people can't even afford to do that in a group setting either, right?
Mm.
At the end of the
Yeah.
day, one of my friends is a trainer. She said this to me yesterday. She said, we're considered a luxury. We're not a necessity.
Mm. Right.
I like to think we're somewhat of a necessity though, because
Mm.
I watch
I
some really stupid shit going on in the gym. People are not training properly. I'm sure it bothers you too when you see form and you're cringing, and then they get injured, and then they don't know why they're injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And the next time you come on, I'm hoping the gym will be back open and we can talk about how busy we both are. What
Yes.
are you doing right now though? Now that the gym is closed, like what are you working on right now?
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm still teaching online.
Yeah.
So I do the chair yoga with seniors, and then for the month of January, in solidarity of the gyms and the closures, I decided to give back and add in some free classes that people can access
Oh, cool.
as of January, twice a week. So Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. PST,
Okay.
and then Thursday or Friday at 7 a.m. PST. So a little bit of a flow and stretch, and then a strengthening as well in the
Oh,
morning.
cool.
So
And the sessions are 1 hour long?
they're 1 hour for the evening session, and then
Yeah.
45 minutes for the strengthening.
Okay. And
Yeah.
if someone wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way to
Mhm.
go about doing that?
Yeah, so people can reach me on my IG, which is yoga with underscore Shar, or by email, which is the healer within you at gmail.com.
I'll put both of those in the description below so people can get in contact with you.
Yeah.
Also, if you're on my Instagram, Charlene and I are constantly promoting each other. So just go on one of my
Yeah.
stories and just find her right away. She's usually there every day. We do a lot of cross
Yeah.
promotion with each other. But
Yeah.
no, thank you so much for coming on. And I look forward to
Yeah.
talking to you again. Well, I look forward to seeing you back at the gym again soon.
Yes,
I'm really
absolutely.
hoping these restrictions ease off in the next few weeks.
I think so. I hope so too.
I'm a little cynical that that's going to happen, but we'll see. I don't know. They've
Yeah.
been telling us this before, so we'll see.
Yeah.
What are you doing for New Year's?
Nothing.
You got no plans for New Year's? No, really?
No, I think I'm just gonna relax at home. I did the same thing last year, and
Yeah.
um, New Year's is kind of just a day for me to like go inwards and prepare for the following year. I mean, New Year's is great, but also like we're already thinking about what we need to do every month. So
Yeah.
there's no change.
No, I'm the same way. But you're young. I thought you'd be going out. Well, I guess you can't go out. There's no parties you can go to. You're not allowed to be a
No.
party of 6 people. You know people
Yeah.
are still going to have parties out tonight.
Oh
It's going
yeah,
to
I'm
happen.
sure.
So
I'm
Charlene's
sure.
being responsible. She's staying in.
Yeah.
Learn from her. Charlene, thank you so much. Have a great New Year's.
Yeah, you too.
And I will see you next year.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Charlene.
See ya.
Bye.